I've been waiting my whole life for this one. Orthopedic surgeon and husband for The View host Sunny Hostin has been named in a federal lawsuit alleging insurance fraud.
I agree with mostly everything that's been said. I mean, we know that, only about 31% of Americans trust our healthcare system. We have a terrible healthcare system. And, doctors suffer because of big corporations as well. Doctors that want to do good, like my husband, operates on someone even though they don't have insurance.
People have to wonder, where does Sunny Hostin get her opinions?
Yeah.
Like you said, and it's obviously from her husband. She has to tell her what to say on The View, because without it, she's got nothing.
Sunny Host learned a familiar lesson in the most public way possible. When controversy arrives, it rarely knocks politely. With Greg Gutfeld bringing the sarcasm and Tyrus adding his own sharp commentary, the situation quickly turned into a media spectacle. A reported $450 million financial controversy was suddenly being discussed alongside jokes, criticism, and questions about credibility. What began as a serious story soon became something much bigger, a relentless roast aimed at the public image Sunny had built over the years.
Implicated in the lawsuit at all, but it's just, you're married, Tom, you're married. If your husband's doing something, if he's allegedly doing something like this, you guys would know if your wives were up to some nefarious stuff. Let's just not forget who she is. She's been, for years, lecturing America about morality, inequality, systemic failures, and look at her track record. How many times has she had to go on in the past 2 months and look at the camera and do a legal apology for all the stuff that she said on the...
Imagine sitting comfortably in an expensive designer chair, completely convinced you've mastered the art of having all the answers. Then your phone starts lighting up with legal notifications. Instead of stepping away from the spotlight, you grab the microphone and continue delivering lessons about morality and responsibility. That's the picture critics painted of Sunny's situation. The contrast was almost too easy to mock. Public lectures about how everyone else should behave, while serious financial headlines were developing much closer to home.
Prosecutors are like, oh, really? Well, how about we add some additional fraud charges onto you? And they're talking about threatening him with insurance fraud, which I would say you could get about 20 years in prison. So that's a death sentence.
Welcome to what critics described as Sunny's worst public relations week yet. Her reputation had been built around confidence, strong opinions, and plenty of moral commentary. She could turn almost any topic into a lesson about society, power, or responsibility. But suddenly, those familiar speeches were being viewed through a completely different lens. While Sunny continued speaking confidently on television, a major financial controversy connected to her household was becoming impossible for critics to ignore.
They're small, but who's the dumbest one of all? True, none of them are in Mensa, but who's the most densa? Perhaps it's Sunny who mastered the art of making idiots look smart. Now The View could ask a mirror who's the dumbest one of all, but there's no way that glass...
The irony was difficult to miss. Sunny was standing in front of millions of viewers, confidently explaining how other people should handle their lives and responsibilities. Behind the scenes, however, her family was dealing with a financial situation that critics considered deeply embarrassing. The reported $450 million controversy became more than a financial headline. It became ammunition for anyone who believed Sunny's public image of certainty did not match the reality unfolding around her.
The problem is that you have to go after the racist people, and be the CEO goes, you know what, I'm not going to allow a woman on my show, or man, that will go after white America and talk about them like dogs. That doesn't represent our ideals or values for anyone. And get rid of those people, and this will clear up real quick. So do you have to actually look in the mirror and clean up your own backyard and get the racist people out? Because that's who you allowed in. You allowed black racist on TV who could just go all day and say anything about white people. And I guess lo and behold, they forgot that there's a lot of people at home, white people at home during the day, that are not watching your show anymore. So just clean it up.
Yeah, Emily.
Then the reported $450 million court controversy landed directly in Sunny's media world. Foremost public figures, a story that serious might be a reason to disappear from television for a while. Sunny did the opposite. She returned to The View and continued speaking with the same confidence as before. That gave Greg Gutfeld plenty of material. Known for turning political moments into comedy, Gutfeld saw an obvious contradiction. someone delivering lectures about ethics while dealing with major financial headlines at home. His jokes transformed the controversy from a serious news story into a punchline that viewers could instantly understand.
Take Sunny Hostin, who thinks climate change caused the solar eclipse, the dumbest of them all. Because everyone knows the moon caused the eclipse, which is controlled by the View's gravitational pull. All right, Kat, did you ever see such a group? It's amazing how Joy and
Gutfeld wasn't simply making one joke and moving on. He turned the entire situation into a performance built around irony. His argument was that Sunny appeared completely comfortable lecturing others while a major controversy was unfolding in her own household. Social media quickly amplified the moment, with memes and clips spreading across the internet. Then Tyrus entered the conversation with a different strategy. Rather than relying entirely on jokes, he focused on the question behind the controversy. How credible can someone appear while judging everyone else when their own circumstances are under intense scrutiny?
Not even that. In The View, you don't need to find Trumpers. You need to fire your race baiters.
Yeah.
You need to fire the two races. You've had people. You had a McCain on there. You've had people on there before, and you ran them off. So the racist ones who want to stick to this, Whoopi and Sunny, and was it Bette Midler? What's her name? Yeah, broke Bette Midler. Fire them and bring people in. Maybe you could get McCain to come back. She was a Republican, but every show and every break, she was nearly in tears because
Tyrus took the criticism beyond the money itself. In his framing, the real issue was credibility. Sunny had established herself as someone who always seemed ready with an answer, a lecture, or a judgment. Now that image was being tested by a major financial controversy connected to her household. If Gutfeld supplied the punchlines, Tyrus supplied the heavier argument. He questioned whether modern political television sometimes rewards outrage more than accountability. The contrast became impossible for critics to ignore, Sunny delivering strong opinions on television while headlines about a massive financial dispute continued following her.
Biden's obsession with race gets thrown back in her face. Today's video comes to us from Sunny Hostin. Sounds like a town. We're in Sunny Hostin. She was on PBS's Finding Your Roots, a show dedicated to researching celebrity ancestry. For context, Sunny is a staunch supporter of reparations and has made a fortune spewing nonsense about white privilege and racial justice. Well, turns out she's not as oppressed as she claims she is. She's actually the descendant of slave owners from Europe. And it is funny, she is so wrapped up in identity and she had no idea.
So what happened when the controversy reached The View? Critics believed the panel largely closed ranks rather than seriously confronting the issue. Instead of a major moment of self-reflection, the response was seen by opponents as another round of confident political commentary. Meanwhile, Gutfeld and Tyrus continued pushing the irony. Gutfeld turned the financial headlines into satire, while Tyrus argued that people who constantly inspect everyone else's lives should also be prepared to examine their own. Online audiences quickly joined in, sharing clips, creating memes, and debating whether the controversy had exposed weaknesses in the show's carefully built image.
Image maker Johnsonville is recalling more than 42,000 pounds of pork sausage for possible contamination with plastic fibers. Fortunately, authorities were able to track all 42,000 pounds to a single location in New York City.
Ultimately, the story became bigger than Sunny herself. Critics began using it to question an entire style of television built around moral certainty, polished arguments, and constant judgment. The irony was that two personalities from very different media worlds, Gutfeld with his comedy and Tyrus with his blunt commentary, were now challenging that image from the outside. Sunny didn't disappear or abandon her usual approach. She continued appearing on The View and delivering her opinions. But for some viewers, the controversy changed the way they interpreted those appearances. Suddenly, every confident statement carried the memory of the financial headlines.
He gets the game ball. If it wasn't for her, if it wasn't for her asking that question, it might have been a closer election. But when oh no, nothing really comes to mind, I was like, cha-ching. Listen, they're bitter, they're angry, they're entitled. They also should be, this should have been a reset for everyone who pushed lies and misinformation for the last, they called him Hitler, they call these things, America rejected them. And instead of coming back and saying, we lied, they instead are now doubling down. So let her keep doing it, because if she keeps that up, we're going to keep getting the Senate and probably the House and the White House, because people see right through your lies. So keep doing what you're doing.
Gutfeld and Tyrus were not simply taking shots at one television personality. Their criticism targeted what they viewed as a much larger problem within elite media culture. Their argument was that commentators who constantly demand accountability from ordinary people should also expect intense scrutiny themselves. Gutfeld attacked the situation through satire, turning the contradiction into comedy. Tyrus approached it more seriously, questioning whether public figures can maintain credibility while appearing unwilling to examine their own circumstances. From their perspective, the controversy represented something larger than one household. It reflected a media environment where giving lectures can be easier than practicing self-reflection.
Tell the audience that she tips big because even she knows she sounds insufferable. Hey, I'm an but at least I tip. This dame probably virtue signals on the toilet. But that's not the point here. While everybody else was trying to figure out how to survive as the government told us that breathing in public could kill us, Sunny was lolling around in her big house clicking on pictures of arugula while mixing Cocoa Puffs into her Haagen-Dazs. Oh, the oppression. I wonder if she wiped down the groceries herself or had her maid do it.
According to critics, the real cost of hypocrisy isn't always measured in dollars. Sometimes the bigger loss is credibility. Sunny and her fellow The View hosts can continue discussing major political and social issues, but some viewers may now listen with a greater level of skepticism. Their argument isn't necessarily that the topics don't matter. It's that the people discussing them should be held to the same standards they demand from others. Gutfeld made that argument through sarcasm, while Tyrus delivered it through direct observation. At the same time, critics say The View has gradually shifted from a debate-driven program toward a format where confrontation and strong reactions often dominate the conversation.
For a 10, I mean, how dare she objectify a woman with a sexist rating system, but it's such a typical thing from a 1.5.
When Gutfeld and Tyrus entered the discussion, they were really challenging a broader media principle. If you speak to millions of people from a position of moral authority, you should expect those same millions to examine your own record. Gutfeld used humor to expose what he saw as the contradiction, while Tyrus focused on accountability and credibility. The internet then did what it always does. Clips spread, jokes multiplied, and the controversy became far bigger than the original discussion. Now the bigger question is whether The View can move beyond the story without it continuing to affect how certain viewers see the program. Critics believe the lesson is simple. Claiming the moral high ground becomes much harder when your own world is suddenly under the microscope. And in today's media environment, the audience isn't just listening. They're watching, questioning, and responding.
Sunny Hostin get her opinions, like you said, and it's obviously from her husband. She has to tell her what to say in The View, because without it, she's got nothing up there. She's not very bright. But the problem with her is that she went full racist. She injected skin color into a fairly generic behavior seen in all spouses, regardless of skin color. People marry, they listen to each other, they have something in common with them, they share their political views. She just didn't want to upset her husband by saying her husband makes her do everything, and then she'd have to accuse him of being a racist. Because if he told her that this is what white women do, then